That I'd like to invite Dr. Divyansh Mishra to please share his screen.
Thanks, Mohit. Thanks. Yeah.
And Divyansh again is our friend from Bangalore. He does great work. In medical surgical retina. Also has interest because of the institute where he's from, in on oncology. And by the looks of it, is a English aficionado. So he's going to be speaking to us on absquatulate. Hold your breath, everyone. Epiretinal neovascularization. And I can't say anything more about that case. So over to Divyansh, please.
Thanks, Mohit, and thank you, Ramandeep sir, and thank you whole team PGI for giving the opportunity. So, just to add a little spice to it, so abscatulate epiretinal neovascularization. What does that mean? Is to leave abruptly. So that's why I started searching on Google, and that's why I found this kind of an abnormal term. Not a very odd case, but which I felt a little odd. That's why I'm presenting this. So this was a 58-year-old female which came to us with complaints of decreased vision since 1 year. She was a known diabetic and hypertensive, which was under treatment and with fair control. Best corrected visual acuity is around 6 by 18 in both the eyes, and near vision was N12. Early lenticular changes, and she had a history of laser done to both the eyes for proliferative diabetic retinopathy. So this is what when she presented to us. So we can see some kind of a pigment scar around the fovea, some yellowish discoloration around the fovea, and some pre-retinal hemorrhage, which is more visible in the left eye, but it was already lasered, but it was unstable. Vitreous hemorrhage was there in the right eye also, somewhere in the periphery. And this was the OCT scans. As what we can see, certain scans show that the hyperreflective material is at the border of ILM or into the vitreoretinal interface in both the eyes. And yes, vitreomacular traction is there more in the right as compared to the left. So these are different scans passing through the same area. Certain scans are not passing through the macula. As we can see, the visual acuity is not 6.6, 6.18 and 12. And this is again to reiterate that in certain scans, we can see that the hyperreflective material is at the border of vitreoretinal interface and just off the ILM is what I felt. These were the scans of OCTA, which we can see certain intraretinal abnormalities in the superficial slab. So these are the default slab in the Topcon machine, which we have. And when we changed it to the manual segmentation, where we turned it to the vitreoretinal interface, because there is no vitreoretinal slab per se in a Topcon machine, we can see certain loops of blood vessels or fronts of vessels at the fovea. Just to again reiterate that this was a manual segmentation which we changed and identified that. As you can see, we can see certain flow signals which are there in those areas which we are expecting that those loops are there and which are above the ILM, as we can see. Again, certain different areas of scans passing just adjacent to those areas to show that loops. This was the left eye. Again, some intraretinal abnormalities in the superficial vascular network, not much appreciated in the deeper ones. Yes, there is some neovascularization at the disc which is there, which we would be seeing much better in an FA. Again, this is also showing that this is the superficial slab or the retinal slab. Once we change it to the manual segmentation, we can see again that there are certain vascular network which is seen above the ILM, which are showing the flow signal. And yes, very well vascular front or some loops of vessels seen that in the left eye also. Again, similar scans in different areas just to show that where it is passing from, and again to state that those have vascular signal within that in an octa. So this was an FFA where we can see certain background diabetic changes, proliferative disease, which is seen at various levels, superior, inferior, and temporal to the arcades. In the left eye, neovascularization at the disc, and certain kind of abnormal blood vessels or vasculature at the fovea, which is in the late phase showing some kind of staining more in the left eye. So considering that the right eye had a gross VMT, we went ahead and did vitrectomy with membrane peeling. As we can see, certain membranes, flat membranes are there, and some vitreous hemorrhage inferiorly. So a triamcinolone mustard PVD some kind of a donut vitrectomy where we are trying to avoid the cap of the vitreous which is there at the vitreomacular interface. And then this is at the completion of the vitrectomy. As we can see, I haven't peeled ILM in this case. I was very jittery, not sure how much ILM would have effects, because this I thought was a case of PFT along with proliferative disease. So this is left with gas and then injected anti-VEGF. And this is post 2 months. As we can see, some very early ERM which is forming on to the nasal side. But as we can see, the pre-surgery, where at certain areas we can see that the pigment or the hyperreflectivity which was there has gone sub-ILM. Probably the traction was the reason which was pulling the pigment into the vitreous cavity or the vitreomacular interface, which after surgery has gone back. This is what I felt. So these are again different scans passing through the same areas pre and post surgery. So the OCTA, this is the pre-surgery OCTA, where we can see the vitreoretinal vascular abnormalities in the superior or the superficial vascular network, which is not very well appreciated in the post-surgery. And yes, the loops which was there has suddenly vanished right now. So we are unable to see any of those loops in the vitreoretinal interface over here, the segmentation as we can see. In the left eye, still at 2 months, we can see that the intraretinal vascularization or abnormalities are still there. But yes, very important finding in this is that the size has increased and the density also has increased. So this is at presentation and this is at 2 months. We can see that the size or the density or the amount which was there has much increased at 2 months. So this one more interesting finding which I could see when I was scanning through the B scan of the OCT is that the traction is not only at the pigment but also at a major blood vessel which is feeding into, or the vertical dip of the blood vessels which we usually see in a PFT. So this is one of the blood vessels which is in continuation with that pigmentation and which is having that traction, as we can see. So points to ponder in this case, which I am still not sure whether this is PFT with an ERNM, that is epiretinal neovascular membrane, or whether this is a neovascular membrane or a foveal neovascularization because of a PDR. And why did ER or the epiretinal neovascular membrane just regress spontaneously? Whether it was because of the laser or at the time of surgery or the anti-VEGF, and at 2 months it hasn't come back. And why did the pigment clump glow back or migrate sub-retinal or sub-ILM after the surgery? Does VMT play a role, which the paper published by Apurva and group has not stated that the VMT plays a role, because none of their cases had any VMT? And what to do for the other eye, where we can see that the neovascularization is progressing?
Great case, Divyansh. Terrific documentation, and backed up by, I think, various, meticulously done surgery. So great. We're going to come back to this case after Simmer's case and then discuss both of these together.